Hey, this is Pegcity8bit, and you're listening to the PixelPie podcast.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to the PixelPie podcast. My name's Scott. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. Sit down, make yourself comfy, and enjoy the show. If you're a return listener, thanks for coming back. You know why you're here. We're going to meet someone that is in the sort of the Game Boy retro gaming community on Instagram, and we're going to get to meet that person and get to know why it is they do what they do and what kind of motivates them to keep just punching out some sort of rad builds and just collecting and just loving them the way we all love them. Before I go on, a little bit of admin. I've got my sponsor, retrogamestore.com.au. You can find Craig at that address, both online and on Instagram. I have in my hands here a freaking gorgeous Game Boy Pocket, a clean reshell with one of the new OSD LCDs, and you can adjust the palette and you can move the screen left and right and up and down, and I'm freaking in love with it. I haven't put it down for more than 20 minutes since I've had it, which is around 9 hours to 10 hours. Craig built this up for me. He's got everything you need. Whether you build it yourself or you want Craig to do it for you, you're going to be a happy Game Boy lover. So yeah, head over there. He's got a whole bunch of other stuff, for SNES and NES and Mega Drive and PlayStation and just all sorts of stuff. Suss it out. There's no doubt you'll get what you need if you head over there. So with that aside, tonight we have with us Pegcity8bit, Mr. Tyler, Mr. T. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am very well. I am very well. Thank you so much. Now, for those that just be patient because there is a bit of a time delay because you're in Winnipeg, Canada. Is that correct?
I am, yeah. So winter peg, as we call it down here. So
Winter peg.
We got snow 7 months out of the year. So
oh man,
that's where the Peg City comes from. Is just the peg in Winnipeg. So yeah, I'm a Winnipeg boy, born and raised.
No worries, no worries. And I guess having snow 6 to 9 months of the year is a really good reason for me to take out something like collecting, loving, and modding Game Boys. Am I right?
You are definitely correct there. I mean, the more so the modding came about. I would say honestly, probably the same as everyone. More so just the COVID and being home, 90% of the time. But I mean, I've been a gamer as long as I can remember.
Right.
And I've been collecting now for probably about 8 to 10 years, give or take. So
beautiful.
It initially started with me just wanting to collect and own the stuff I had as a kid.
Yep.
And then it's now exploded into, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. So.
Do you have insurance on items or just home insurance or something?
Yeah, just overall house insurance. The whole thing's cataloged for the most part. So I mean, At this point, if something were to happen, I don't know that I would go out and replace it.
The journey wouldn't be the same, would it? Going back and doing it all over again.
Yeah, I think that the biggest part about it is like things have gone up in price over the last year, right? So the stuff that I paid, $5 for is now worth $100.
Dang.
So I mean, sourcing that stuff out is a little steep. So Mario Sunshine is a prime example. Like I think I bought that at a garage sale a couple summers ago for 20 Canadian dollars, which is very on par to the Aussie dollar.
Correct.
It's about $15 for those in the US, but I bought it for about $20 at a garage sale. And I don't think you can find a copy for less than $100 Canadian these days.
So that's nuts.
Like that's just one example of
I'm looking over your shoulder there, and I can see in a cabinet, I can see a PS1, the OG US SNES, and it looks to be quite a few 2600 carts in box.
Yeah, so
Man,
they're not actually in a
that's
box.
healthy. It's healthy
They're
looking.
like yeah, no, they're the universal game cases, so very similar to what we would have gotten back in like the Blockbuster days, um,
Right.
with the cases that they would have given those out. Yeah, so I bought
Yeah.
a lot probably about 2 years ago. Actually, no, it was last January, so about a year ago,
Yeah.
and it was I just wanted those. I just wanted those cases,
Yeah.
but I got a bunch of stuff. But I bought about 200 of them.
Yeah.
Um, for about 200 of those, and then I got some like DS cases and some TV cases and some other
Mm,
things.
mm.
Um, but I got a really good deal on it, so I'm not complaining. You can't buy them for cheap. I think they're um, Canadian. I think to buy 100 is like 200 and something dollars, $275
It's not.
after duty
It's
tax.
not bad. It's a good way to kind
Um,
of to get all your loose carts and put them up nice and clean and
oh
protected.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I've got with like manuals and stuff for them as well.
Mm.
So
Oh
it's
wow.
uh it's a nice way to showcase as well, right? It's neat, it's organized, they're not
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
box, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And your 2600, do you just play like RF or do you have yours AV modded?
No, I actually like I bought a 2600 and a 2600 junior
Yeah.
probably about 3 years ago at the flea market, and I got them. I want to say I got like a box of stuff for like $20.
Oh my
But
God.
the guy was like, yeah, like I kind of saw it peeking underneath the table, and I was like, what, like what's in here? And he's like, oh, I don't even know. I've had it since last summer. If you want to rummage through it, go to town. So I take it out. I'm going through it, and he's got the 2600, the 2600 Junior. There's about 4 or 5 paddles in there. There's some power supplies.
Dang.
Um, and he's like, yeah, go through there. If you can find whatever you're looking for, let me know and we'll work it out.
Mm,
So
mm, mm.
pulled all that stuff out, and I was like, how much do you want for it all? He's call it $20. It's like, yeah, here's 20, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm running
Get,
out of there.
yeah, for sure.
They're both in really good condition. Like, you can't find Ataris
Yeah.
anymore.
Which
Like
2600 do you have? Do you have a
they either
Woody or the
work or they
Vader?
don't. I have a Woody, and then it's the Junior with like the color
Yeah, the
and
silvery.
black and white option on the.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Groovy, man. Super jealous. I don't know that I would really play a 2600, but I really want one. Like I've seen a couple of Woodies getting around on our local kind of Facebook marketplace, and they're still 120,
Mhm.
150, and they're like, think it works. So it's obviously been sitting in someone's, storage space. And I'm like, just waiting for that right one. But yeah, don't see me hooking it up because I looked around at like flash carts, and flash carts for the 2600 are still a bit sparse. It's not like all the kind of EverDrive stuff that's really taken off, but it'll happen. Someone will come around and do it all over again. It always happens. It's all about demand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
So what do you
for sure.
what are you playing these days?
Honestly, I don't game as much as I would like to, or as much
Mm,
as I would, I used to.
yeah,
Um, I've got a little boy. He'll be 2 in June, so
yeah,
he occupies a lot of my time. So,
yeah,
and then I'm still working full time. So as far as like having time to like sit down and game, I think all the parents listening can kind of, agree that it's tough. Any free
yeah,
time, it's generally just like playing a quick, a couple of quick races of like of Mario. But as far as like diving into a game, haven't really had the chance to do that in a
yeah,
while, but pretty
yeah,
much exclusively PS4 and Switch if I had to like, be exclusive to
yeah,
a particular console.
yeah. It's tricky, isn't
Probably
it?
where I'm at.
And even if you do have half an hour to yourself,
Oh,
it's usually because you've been, and everybody has things in their lives that chew up like brain power, energy. So by the time you sit down, you kind of like, I just want to like surf the Netflix menu for 20 minutes and decide I'm going to watch nothing and then just go to bed, sort of thing.
yeah,
So the idea
yeah,
of sitting down and gaming,
exactly,
you've really got to be kind
exactly.
of prepared for it. I find most of my gaming actually gets done in my sort of half an hour break at lunch at work, and I take a Game Boy, and I've worked through a Metroid and a Zelda and a few other games that just by just chipping away, and you don't realize at the end it goes, oh, you put 17 hours in. It's like, holy cow, that's people sit down and they just one shot these. I'm like, who has the time to do that? Anyway,
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of those Game Boy games were designed to be played in a couple of hours, right? Like
Yeah,
that's like a
yeah,
lot of those games with, no save points and things like that. Like they were meant
yeah,
to be played
yeah,
fairly quickly.
yeah.
I think the last game I really like put some time into was Hollow Knight.
Right.
Um, it was the free PlayStation Plus game a couple months ago,
Yep,
and
yep.
I think I dove like 40 hours into Hollow Knight.
Nice.
Um, and you don't even think about it. It's like, okay, I'll chip, 2 hours here, 3 hours here,
Yeah.
an evening, a 4 or 5 hour session, whatever. And then you finish it, and then that time thing pops up, and it's like, yep, 39 and change, and it's like that's almost 2 days. Like, geez, okay, it's just where did the time
Yeah,
go?
yeah. Look, if it's any consolation, you were never going to study for a diploma or anything in 2 days. You might as well put it towards that. That's fine.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about specifically Game Boy then. Do you want to sort of
Okay.
take us back to, I guess, your as early as you can remember your Game Boy, I guess, birth and sort of how you get into them, and then yeah, let's just start there. That'll be fine.
And then bring it up, yeah, for sure. So the first Game Boy I can remember is a clear Game Boy Pocket. I got
Mhm.
it brand new. I got it for Christmas. I want to say
Mm,
for like my seventh or eighth Christmas, something like that. I still have it to this day.
beautiful.
Um, and it's clean. It's a no LED pocket too, which are really hard to find as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Um, so from there, I had the pocket. I had a berry Game Boy Color. I had a black Game Boy Advance. I had a DS, and pretty much, I think the DS is kind of where like my handheld um, journey kind of ended for me. So I would have been like 12, I want to say, or 13 when the DS came out.
Right.
And then from there, I started getting to like more mainstream consoles, so Xbox. And then
Yeah.
I think after that, I got into, the Wii and the PS2, I guess, at that time, and then kind of went backwards, more into my retro stuff. Um, from there, like I think I was about 24, 25. And it's okay, I'm gonna own all the consoles I had as a kid. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and find them all. I'm gonna seek them all out, and I'm gonna like just rebuild my childhood. That was the initial goal when I kind of got into collecting and Game Boys and everything. And then from there, I was like, hey, well, I'm gonna own all the Nintendo consoles. I'm gonna own all the Nintendo consoles, and then the consoles I own or I
Yeah.
owned as a kid. And then fast forward 5 years, I own the 2600, the Atari 2600 Junior. I've got the
Mm,
NES, NES
mm,
Classic.
mm,
I have multiple Genesis 2 models for
mm,
whatever.
mm,
Got a complete in box Genesis 1,
mm.
um, the SNES,
Do you,
PlayStation 1, and
do you
64. Like,
do you have anything really obscure like a CDI or a Jaguar or something that you ain't going to turn
like,
on
like
because
the
it probably won't
random
work
like
anyway?
weird stuff. No, I mean, I guess the most like obscure thing in my collection is I have a number of Japanese GameCube.
Oh, right.
That'd probably be like the most like outlandish stuff. And then I've got a complete in box Super Scope
Oh, that's
that I
rad.
got. Yeah, so I got that for Christmas a couple of years ago, from my brother-in-law actually. But outside of that, like nothing like super crazy. Like I don't have like a virtual boy or anything
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
It's just like
Uh,
no one has them
but
type
just
thing.
give, let's just give you pink eye
I mean, I think
anyway.
I have fairly, yeah, no, I think I've got fairly like common items. Um, but I think like having all of them is where it becomes kind of neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I've got, for the most part, I have everything from Atari 2600 all the way up to, to PS4. I haven't really gotten into the new gen stuff. I didn't grab an Xbox One because I wasn't really an Xbox guy at the time when that was
Yeah.
kind of floating
Yeah.
around. So I've
Yeah.
got a 360, more so just to have than anything. But
Yeah.
um, that journey kind of ended with the PS4 and the Switch,
Yeah.
and then from there I started dabbling back into retro gaming from there.
Mm. I think it's I think like
So
based on your Insta, you like photography, and so there's an element of art to what you do and what you want to share, and a person that delivers that kind of, let's call it content for lack of a better word, I think is often aware of things like, the way things are advertised and the way things are delivered as a product. And it's definitely occurred to me. So I picked up a NES late last year, and then from the same guy I got a SNES, and then I got a Mega Drive 2, the Australian one, and then I got the PS1, the GameCube, and the PS2. And I currently have a friend's PS2 Slim. And to sit here and look at these whole sort of 6, 7 consoles, and each one as a representative of a concept, a team of people that were trying to make something that there was elements of that team that were like, we're just going to make money. And there was elements of that team was like, I love this and I want people to see what I can do. And I want to leave my mark on the planet. Having that little kind of mini museum and, listening to a podcast or watching a documentary, I get a massive buzz out of hearing a story about the GameCube and just thinking, my God, someone had some bad days making that thing so they can sit here on my shelf. I appreciate humanity. I really, really do. And I suspect you're of a similar nature.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I think for me, when I like, you can kind of see in the back. I mean, the people watching, listening can. I've got all my consoles in glass cases,
Yeah,
and then all my games are in shelves. So I mean, I just wanted to put everything on display and then eventually build up, the game room where everything is kind of plug and play and swap and
sure.
go. Haven't gotten to that point yet, but I mean, I've got, last I counted, something like 22 consoles on hand at any given time. And
Beautiful.
then,
Beautiful.
I mean, Kelly, next stop, please, is gonna, maybe faint when she hears it, but I think I've got 20, no, let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, like 25 Game Boys,
Yeah, boy.
ranging from the
That's
DMG all the way
wicked.
up to
Uh,
the DS. I mean, if that counts as a Game Boy. Um, and then a couple complete in boxes. So I'd say somewhere between 25 and 30,
yeah,
um, like
yeah,
personal handhelds,
yeah, yeah,
um, and then that's not including anything that I've got like on hand to mod, which is,
yeah.
I mean, I think I've got like 20 or something on hand right now.
They're all at your place. Thanks for that. They're just getting so hard to get
Yeah,
hold of. It's
yeah. So
crazy.
if you're looking,
Yeah,
I mean, I think all modders can kind of agree. Like the price. So I mean, it's a super niche hobby, right? That is
yeah,
kind of how you got to look at it. Is for most people, it's still a hobby. They haven't really converted into a business. Um, I still consider myself a hobbyist. Yes, I'm selling builds and I've got a site and the Instagram and everything like that, but it is still a hobby. Um,
you still
I think
enjoy
when
it.
you make that switch from a hobby business is where it's like a full-time gig, you know what I mean? And you're
Yeah.
like making a whole living and a full-time income on it.
Mm,
I think then you can kind of think of it as a business type
mm,
situation. Um, but the price of Game Boys has doubled, if not tripled, in the
mm.
last year.
Like everything retro
A
gaming.
year ago, well, yeah, like exactly. It's like everything, right? I was saying that you can't find a Mario Sunshine for less than about
Mm, mm.
$100 these days. But um, a year ago, a year and a half ago, you could find working Game Boys for like 15, 20, $25
Mm,
Canadian.
mm.
So 10, 15, $20 US. And now you're looking at 25, 30, 45 or higher.
Oh yeah,
Um, US. So yeah, 40, 50, $60 for broken Game
yeah,
Boys. It's like it's
yeah,
outrageous,
yeah.
you
I've had a
know.
few people that
So
like advertise, and I'm like, so you want $70 for this, and the ad literally says $70 might work. I don't know. I'm sure it's worth something. And you're like, it could just be a piece of plastic and some crappy old crap inside for all it matters, and you still want $70 for it. Yeah, sure. It's like, okay, nice. You know what? All this retrospect, all this reflection on how expensive stuff's got, we got no one to blame but ourselves. We've created this market, and so it is what it is. You just enjoy it or you don't. Yeah. With I sort of digressed, took you down the whole other console path before, but with modding, do you think that it's something that you'll be able to just keep doing? I mean, it's got to come a point where the market's so saturated with modded consoles. You jump on eBay and it's like the $200 to $250 mark of just refurbished DMG is, when I got into it, I was like, really? Like, this is like legit going bananas. How long do you think we can do this before we have to enjoy it as a hobby again?
I mean, I it's super subjective, and I think everyone's gonna have a different kind of take on it because there was people doing it before all the COVID madness and like a lot of new modders that have come up in the last year.
Yeah.
Um, and like there's just a lot of us, but like the world is a big place. I think there's enough space for all of us. I think
Yeah.
that the difference is it's such a small and niche community
Yeah.
that like it seems like there's so many of us, but it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if we were to put a number to it, it's like, okay, so there might be 300 Game Boy modders that are like active, that are, floating around in the community right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Billions of people on the planet. Like, I think everyone just kind of needs to remember that, like, like if we all want to sell Game Boys, there's enough Game Boys that we can all buy them. There's enough people can all
Yeah.
sell them.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a lot of like multiple modders in the same city that, or same
Mm,
state or country, that were stepping over each other to
this is true.
to sell these, if that's what we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also think like your followers, like build your own little community, build a community of people who want to buy from you. If that's what you want to do, if you want to build Game Boys and sell them, and you build up a little community, like people will stay loyal and they will only buy from you.
Mm,
People will say, I'm saving up and I'm going to buy one, at X and X time, or with my tax return, or whatever.
yeah.
And like if you've built up that community and that relationship, like there's that like sense of loyalty almost. And it's like, I will buy one from you eventually,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
it be 6 months or a year from now, like that is the goal. And if it comes down to, shipping overseas is a little too much, like, do you know anyone who's over here? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like what country are you in? Like, I will find you someone over there
Yeah. Yeah. That's
who can build you the exact same thing. Like I'd be willing to, you know, I guess, like supplement that sale.
enable them
Um,
regardless. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, if like shipping overseas, depending on where we're going, if we're going to the UK from here, it's about $45. It's about $60 to Australia.
Mm,
Um, give or take, it's about $25 to the States, which isn't horrible, but you
mm,
know, $45 on a $250 build is like, that's a lot of money,
it
right? Like
is. Yeah.
it's a quarter of the build. So, if shipping is what is the downfall to that transaction, there's a number of modders in the UK that I'd be willing to,
Mm, mm.
give that to and just outsource it to them. There's also a number of, modders in Australia that I'd be willing to,
Oh
you know,
yeah. It's blown me
outsource that.
away.
So yeah, so it like in that regard, it's like it's a hobby at the end of the day, but it's like just build up that community and kind of just do your thing. There's enough
Yeah.
of it to go around for everyone. As far as like it ending anytime soon, I think it'll slow down. I don't think that it'll ever stop because there was people doing it before all this COVID nonsense, right? Like,
Yeah.
2019 and earlier. So as far as it like ending sometime soon, I could foresee that it slows down, as people start going back to work full time and just have less time to mod on a part time or full time basis.
Mm,
um, I could see kind of people, leaving the Instagram thing behind a little bit to
mm.
focus on, more like real life type
Yeah.
situations
Yeah.
and, full-time
Yeah.
jobs and life and all that stuff.
Yep.
But I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think this is a bubble that we're just gonna pop. I think the bubble is just gonna get smaller.
Yeah, nice. I think as a customer slash collector, like my perspective, my perspective is probably quite false because my Instagram is, I'd say, at least 80% Game Boy retro game related. And so of that 80, like 90% of it's Game Boy related. So as far as I'm concerned, the only thing I don't watch TV anymore. Like the last year and a half, just been too stupid. I just listen to the idle chit chat around the water cooler at work, and I get enough news to know me. Yeah, we haven't sorted it out yet. So pretty much most of my
Yeah, no doubt.
most of my intake is from things like Instagram. And as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that's happening in the world is Game Boys. So I guess I have those thoughts. And the other aspect you're talking about where it'll slow down, I think that once people are allowed to travel, and we've been to a bunch of countries over the last 9 years. They're expensive trips, and when all of a sudden you don't have those plans, then you go, sure, I can throw $200 at a Game Boy or whatever. So once we're allowed to get back out and live the life we used to, and we get the new normal, yeah, maybe those things will slow down. That's fine. Yeah, cool. Hey, one thing that you've done recently is the Shoot Light Peg City, the hashtag on Instagram, which is drawing a whole bunch of people out to do the Pegcity8bit style of shooting. That kind of like, it's a, how would I describe it? And this is my description, which is that kind of like cyberpunk disco kind of, it's like there's light, but there's not light. And what am I looking at? But I know exactly what I'm looking at. And it's kind of sexy, and I really like it. And I applaud you for that sort of stuff. That's when the community just goes, oh, boom, yeah, I can put a couple of lights in front of a Game Boy and take a photo with low aperture. That's wicked, So tell us a bit about that sort of stuff, and how important you think that is. Oh, and can you elaborate on your own
Yeah,
photography too?
so I actually took photography in high school. So I majored in photography. I graduated with a dual diploma. Um, and the goal was to kind of, be a photographer outside of high school and do it as a career full time. And then that just kind of never happened. But fast forward 12 years and kind of got into the Instagram thing. And then just over time, I think like I've had the account as Pegcity8bit for about a year and a half now. Um, Started in like October of 2019, but in the beginning, it was very much like I just wanted to share my love for retro gaming with people that also loved retro gaming. So
Mm.
that's kind of where it started. And then it was very just like point and shoot. Like it was, here's a game, take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Here's my sister does pearl art with those melting beads. So it was, here's some pearl art that my sister's done.
Yep.
And that's kind of how it started. And then just over time, it just became like I started getting more like artistic with it. Um, in January of last year, I connected with a couple creators all over the world. So James E Plays is one in the UK. Next up, please, who's actually just a province over. She's in Toronto, and then yesterday's tech, Sam and Kelsey over in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So I connected actually with Sam and Kelsey first. So from yesterday's tech, and the chat kind of started with like, I want to create like a little group of people that are coming up in the community that we can just connect with that are all over the world, and just create like this little like pod of people, and then just like over time we'll like maybe we'll blow it up into something bigger. So the four of them, like I talk to almost daily at this point.
Yeah.
But they've really influenced my like push for the art side of my Instagram. So Kelly absolutely kills like kawaii, like very girly, cute, like flat lays with Game Boys, but they're different. I say almost every time I mention her account, and I'll say it here on the record. Kelly has the most aesthetically pleasing Game Boy account on Instagram, no doubt.
Yeah, agree.
If you're not putting her next up, please go check her out. Absolutely unreal stuff. We as a group, like just kind of like hinted at, she was using just like a flat, like white IKEA table for the longest time to do her stuff. And was still killing it, was still doing the flat lay thing. Everything was gorgeous. And we were just like, how do we shift the aesthetic a little bit? And we're like, stop using the white table, like just like see if you can get rid of it and do some kind of color or different type of background. And she switched it up. She's using all kinds of things around her house, and then boom. So as I watched her account grow, I was like, how do I create like my own kind of aesthetic, my own vibe? So I kind of started, and I was like, I couldn't quite figure it out. I've seen a lot of these like aesthetic profiles that are, they're like colorated a certain way, and they're all cool tones, or they're all purple with just cat gal. Her
Yep.
name's Justina. She's in the UK, and her whole profile is purple. It's absolutely unreal.
Yeah, that's
Um,
commitment, hey?
but things like that, yeah, it's just like it's crazy, but it's like things like that. I was like, I want to do something like that. It's me.
Mm,
Um, but it's like it's true to to the type of pictures that I take. Um, so late last year, I spent probably about 6 weeks like just trying to figure it out. Um, the last couple of weeks, I went on like a tour around Winnipeg, and I took some pictures of Game Boys around the city. And I was like, hey, I want to do a dark aesthetic, but I want it to still true to the pictures that I was taking prior. Um, so I took 40 or 50 pictures and just looked at them all, and I was like, okay, this is the thing. Like I've already built the aesthetic. The pictures are just out of order. Like looking at like what I had posted previously.
mm,
And then from there it was just a matter of, okay, how do we do this? So when I batch create all my content. So here's another tip for everyone who did the shoot, like Peg City tag, and thank you to everyone who did. I think we had about 30 people, take their stab at it. And I think the really like humbling part about it is that everyone, took a stab at something that I do, but everyone put their own spin on it.
yeah.
No one took a Game Boy, was like, okay, I'm gonna shoot my Game Boy the exact same way that he did. It was, I'm gonna use the fundamentals and the tips that were given to me in that Instagram TV video, and I'm gonna shoot something how I feel that he would shoot it, but it's still true to me. So that was really cool to see, and
Yeah.
like super humbling. There was a lot of cool pictures in there. There's a lot of nice shots. And for the most part, almost if not everybody, um, I offered some type of tip or trick for their specific style or shot, and just like how I would, improve on it just a little bit. And it
Mm,
was like none was bad. Like every single one of those pictures was amazing.
mm,
It's just like little stuff, shoot in a little closer, add a fill light or a color fill to separate the Game Boy from the background.
mm, mm.
Change the focus a little bit, just to like bring that focus just to the D-pad rather than
Yeah.
the silk screen on the game, but just like little things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then next day people are like right back to it, like I'm gonna do it again, and they're like boom, like they take in all those tips and all those suggestions, and like they slayed it day two. And like
Yeah.
this is unreal. I'm like now I've got competition on the ground. But
Yeah. Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
like I just wanted a dark aesthetic that was very like visually appealing, and I think I've captured that. I think with what I'm kind of doing. I'm doing like this 3 picture set thing. I don't even know what you would call it, sets of three. So everything I shoot's in sets of three, um, whether it be a color or a build style or
Yep. Yep.
one particular Game Boy with 3 different angles or anything
Yep.
like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So I've been doing that. The people, they'll be loving it. If they're not loving it, drop me a comment or a DM and I'll change it up. But
If you're not
based
loving
on
it,
based on the
if you're not loving it, just come
yeah,
back in like
exactly.
3 days and there'll be something different. So it's all good.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly. And even, it's, yeah, exactly.
yeah, I think people
So,
sometimes forget what Instagram, like I've been on Instagram probably 4 or 5 years for a couple of hobbies. And what
mhm,
sort of attracted me to Instagram over, I guess, I use Facebook, but more for just communication. I like to just watch, and it's a couple of groups I'm involved in, and I just kind of like watch them all kind of poke each other in the eye with blunt objects and just go, ah, that's how that works. All right, that's cool. I got what I needed. But Instagram really
yeah,
is, it really is, and has in a long time been just about photography. And I've said it before, there's less inclination to have a conversation with someone about what you're presenting. Someone might comment, but it doesn't feel as like, hey, buddy, I think this is shit. It's just like, oh yeah, or they're just kind of, because it's like really scrolly and no one else has already started the conversation. So the space is still there for you to just put up whatever it is you like and see if other people like it. And if they don't, worst case is I've got a 5-year photographic diary of all the stuff I've been into, the countries I've traveled to, and I just really enjoy kind of scrolling back, 2 years ago, and oh wow, I had that, and we were doing that, or we were there, and you can use that as a little bit of
Yeah.
a tool when if you're trying to, whether it be like I used to build a lot of Gundam, got a Gunpla, and I used to have a lot of RC rock crawlers and FPV aircraft, and every one of those has had something, an element of photography, whether I'm trying to make a truck
100%.
look scale, or I'm trying to make this 8-inch robot look like it's 120 foot, and you can kind
Yeah.
of go back and you learn little lessons along the way, and it doesn't have to be expensive, does it? Almost all my photography has been on an iPhone, and my one I did for you was just, I've got a couple of $10 lamps with a little bit of a backdrop, and the red light was the light off the back of my bicycle. I just sat that down on the bench,
See,
and
but like that's super clever.
that's what created my
I can't
lighting.
remember who it was. I want to say it was Pixel Juice said he used like a red lamp from his girlfriend's plants
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
to create the red light in his shot. And I
yeah.
was like, honestly, use what you've got. If you don't have it,
Go,
if you
go
don't have,
yeah,
like these lights aren't expensive. Like I think they're
yeah,
40-50 bucks on Amazon.
yeah,
Like they're
yeah,
not expensive.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but if you don't have them, right, like use what you've got.
yeah.
You can use flashlights realistically.
Go through your kid's toolbox and pull out the fairy wand, and there's all sorts
A
of stuff.
hundred percent.
There's
Yeah.
stuff in your house that makes a bloody annoying light that you wish would turn off until, hang on, I'm going to use that to photograph my Game Boy now. So, yeah, good
Yeah,
stuff. Good
exactly.
stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. For those that maybe didn't see the video you did, can you just elaborate on? You use like an SLR, digital SLR, for all your photography, do you? And then do you do much?
No,
No,
actually. So most of my stuff is shot on my phone.
beautiful.
Um, like almost all of it.
Yeah,
So I've got the S28 Ultra. So I did that tutorial on my phone. Um, because most people don't have access to a digital SLR or film
yeah,
SLR.
yeah,
I do have one, but for the most part, most of my stuff is shot on my phone. Um, and when I do shoot with my camera, I will shoot that same set on my phone, and I'll
yeah,
mix in a shot from my phone
yeah,
in the
yeah,
set of three.
yeah,
Um, they're very similar in terms of quality. I think the only thing that I like about my camera more than my phone is it just has like slightly more depth of field.
yeah,
So the images are like slightly crisper.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but as far as like overall quality, like very, very similar. Like I would applaud someone to go through my timeline and try and find a shot on my camera versus my
Yeah,
phone.
yeah, yeah. And the beauty of using your
Because
phone
they're
is
they're very, very close.
you keep a consistency, like it's one thing to take photos of things in a studio type format with lighting and everything, but then when you go to a phone and you're at the beach or wherever you want to have this nice shot, it will become quite apparent that there's a difference in what's going on here. And if you're going for a thing like, you are like, I want to create something, I want people to look back and go, this is me and I'm being consistent about it. If there's that sort of like zigzaggy of performance or quality, then people are going to see it, and it seems a little less determined. So if that's a word, less like you're really specifically looking for something. So yeah, the phone is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, no, and I would definitely recommend, like, if your phone has a pro mode, um, I would highly recommend that you get familiar with it. There's nothing against the auto mode or just like the standard mode on most cameras, right? Like they're meant to shoot in that mode.
Yeah,
Um, there's just like you have more freedom,
yeah,
and I think that most people, as far as like Instagram, kind of goes, like at the end of the day, like we're all content creators, we're creating content for Instagram. I think that if you want to call it name or title is kind of like subjective. Everyone thinks content creator, and they kind of think, people who are full-time making a living, producing content. But you have content, you've created it, you're a content creator. It's
yeah, yeah,
really that simple. But if you can create the highest quality of content with what you've got, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
it's just as simple as learning, the pro mode in your camera, um, and just kind of learning what those settings do, like that's the first step. The
Yeah.
second step is to get familiar with, different editing apps and software, whether it be Lightroom or Photoshop or,
Mm,
Visco
mm,
or anything like that.
mm.
Um, there's I guess, a level of editing to it to just like take it from what you shot to, what you envisioned when you shot it. That was one thing that was kind of like drilled in my head as a student when I was taking photography, is don't shoot it and then edit it to what you want. Shoot it
Oh,
the way you need it,
yep.
and then make it what you like, what you wanted.
Just
So
sort of clean it up.
a lot of, yeah, and just like soften it up, and
Yeah.
bring up your highlights and things like that.
Yeah.
Don't shoot a super bright image and then try to make it dark. Like, just
Yeah. Yeah.
shoot a
Yeah.
darker image, right? So I watch a lot of Peter Minions videos and things like that in the last couple of months, just to try to like bring all those skills back. And then honestly, it's just been, I've always just kind of liked darker images,
Mm,
but
mm,
like
mm.
darker images that are still bright.
Well, you still got the
I
detail there.
think
You can
that,
still tell what the object within the photo is, like it's and as we all start to
yeah.
learn, we know the subtle differences between a DMG and a pocket, even though there's like most people, if you put a light in there, the pocket light, most of us be able to go, "Whew, that's sweet. That's actually a light." You give it to a chump that doesn't really know Game Boys, but we're doing this for each other, and the idea is to kind of please each other anyway. Yeah, I would also
Mhm.
I would not discourage people from just looking at the very simple filters that are within the Instagram app itself. Most of what I do is
Oh,
just
100%.
I've got the lighting and I've got it kind of like you said. I'm not going to shoot something overexposed and then try and just use contrast and brightness to take it down because I'm going to lose all my detail. But if I get that picture, I set my exposure right, and then
Mhm.
I just throw in like I just love vignette because it just takes a picture and kind of it subtly focuses you on the center of the screen. You just crank a bit of contrast, a little bit of saturation. I'm not going to
Mhm.
make it bright orange because you guys all know that's not the real color. You're just being greedy, and you just before you know it, you've actually got a really nice little picture. It doesn't take much at all. It can be done that easily. You just got to tweak around and fiddle and push the sliders backwards and forwards before you go, that's not right. Or and they shoot it to you and go, hey, what do you think of this? And you're like, that's nice, but I know that's not really that orange. So just crank the saturation down.
Yeah, and honestly, I think like just knowing what those settings do
Yeah.
to an image is huge, right? Like even in the video I posted, um, you know, like I don't know how many people know that like the ISO it's the sensor's sensitivity to light, right? Like I don't think anybody thinks about that, but it also adds grain to your photo. So it makes the photo brighter, but it also adds grain. So if you're shooting in a darker setting, you would use a higher ISO, but it also introduces a grain. Your shutter speed is the speed in which the shutter opens and closes. Like that one's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
self-explanatory. White balance. So white balance is tricky. I guess when I was explaining it, it's tricky because it just moves that image from blue um, to orange, right? Like a warmer
Mm,
tone.
mm,
So different lights have different color grades. So I think that's the part I maybe missed. So I'll explain it here now for everybody. So fluorescent lights are blue. Um, so like your overhead lights, they give off a blue hint, like a blue tint. So
yeah.
if you were shooting under fluorescent lights, same with LEDs. LEDs they're kind of like they're white, but they do have a blue hint to them.
Sure.
So you'd want to grade on the warmer side of the scale so that your white is still white.
Yeah.
If you're shooting with more like a tungsten bulb or like more like household LEDs, like for lamps and stuff, like those are a warmer color, they're more of a yellow. So you'd want to bring your color temperature down to make the image more blue so that you can make that orange or that yellow color look white again.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
the best way to do that is um, call it white carding or gray carding, is when you set your white balance, that card should still be, it should be the color that you're physically seeing with your eye. So
Mm,
um, if you're shooting outside or in an actual studio setting, um, that card would be you look at it, it should be gray or white or whatever. And that's how you would set your white balance and all that, is so that
Yeah. Yeah.
that is whatever color that you want it to be. So I
Yeah.
hope that makes sense, because I didn't really explain it in the video. So for
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone who's
Yeah.
listening,
Yeah. Well, anybody who's interested is
you're
going to take
welcome.
that and they're going to look deeper into it. One other thing, if I can call advice, is your backdrop is just so important. Whether your backdrop be white sand or whether it be a black, I've got a piece of black kind of card, and that's it's sort of
Same here. Yeah.
it's not reflective and it's not the expensive photography type film, that's non-reflective surfaces, but that's going to really, especially my phone's like a $320 Android, and it's going to just not deal with exposure very well. And I've literally got to kind of touch the screen and go, no, I want you to look at this spot, not all of that. And because if I let it look at all that, it blows everything out because it's looking over in that corner. It thinks that's the pertinent information. The pertinent information is the front of this Game Boy. As soon as I touch on that, the whole thing shuts down and it starts taking in less light because the subject is right there, right in front of us. Like, oh, I thought you want me to take a picture of the whole thing. So whether you be outside at the beach, whether you be at a party, whether you have it on the bottom of your car and the sunlight reflecting back, really honing in on the subject. And you can usually sort of slide the exposure down and you kind of look at it, look through your lens and go, as best you can, that image on that screen looks like what I'm seeing with my open, bare eyes on the bonnet. And you're 98% there from then.
Yeah, and I think even when I I don't shoot in my auto mode too often, but like if I do, I drop the exposure on it because it is naturally overexposing that image.
Yeah.
For two reasons. So here's another tip: your phone will overexpose the image on the screen because it wants you to be able to see it.
Yeah, right.
That's part of the reason. So even if it looks brighter on the screen, it's that bright. So if you were to shoot that picture, it's not as bright as it looks. It'll actually be a darker image.
Right. And this is because
But
it's
it
hard to see
wants you to be able to
screens.
see it. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So something to keep in mind is that even though the image on the screen might be brighter, the image that it takes may not be as bright. But I do knock the exposure down anytime I shoot in auto, mostly because this phone's got a 108 megapixel camera on it. So the only way to use that camera is in auto mode.
Right.
So I'll generally use it if I'm shooting using natural light, just because why not shoot at 108 megapixels?
Yeah, hells yeah. You got all that horsepower. My last little tip is that like my phone runs in the kind of like the auto dimming, so that if you're in a dark room, it dulls the screen, dims the screen to save battery and etc. And I always ensure that when I go into my so I've got a shared, with my bicycle and all my other things, and my little kind of, let's call it, booth is in the corner. And at that point, all I've got is my two lamps. And so the screen goes real dim, but I always ensure I turn that auto dim off and I crank it up so that the person who's sitting, on their bus with bright sunlight coming through on their way to work, that's how they're going to see the image, with their screen cranked right up. So that's another thing. Just ensure that you crank your screen dimming, make it as bright as you can, so you'll see what the end result's going to be. Otherwise, you take that back into your living room and you go, oh, that picture looks terrible, because you weren't seeing what, you're supposed to see in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny you should mention that. So I shot those like very, very dark Game Boy colors about a week ago.
Yeah.
So those are shot dark and then edited to be darker than I shot them.
Right.
But I edited those with my screen like full brightness.
Yeah.
I had people comment like, I turned my brightness all the way up to be able to see this. I'm like, good, that was the point.
That's the point, yeah.
Like that was the whole point, is like I want you to look at it and go, like this is a sexy Game Boy, but like I want to like look at it, and you bring it up and then it's just like all the detail comes back, and it's almost like you're editing the picture yourself. It's a little beautiful, like slider trick. So
beautiful. As far as, so it astounds me sometimes what people would do. Like I was just with Game Boys and stuff. I've got what's his name? His last name is Farrell. Greg Farrell has got this Game Boy modding book, which to some people,
Game Changer mods.
Game Boy. This one here, you can see it. I've got
a copy here.
And it's just I pulled it out recently just to, it's all black and white, but some of the photography in that is amazing. I'm currently looking at the couple of pages, which is the Bivert mod chip install for the DMG.
Yeah,
It's in black and
those are
white.
fun.
All the font is kind of it's almost like a handwritten type font. It's not cursive, but it's not square, and you can really look through that and go, you look at it, you go, that's where my eye's drawn to, and I really love seeing the pics that people put up of like when they're actually modding. I like seeing a bench. And I love a photo where I see a bench and I can see a tool and I can see that they're up to something and they're probably just ducked out for a drink. But my eye is drawn to the Game Boy and the PCB and whatever's going on. And, this is a really great book just to pick up and flick through. I think people forget that, books are good. I just wanted to kind of plug that while I was there. It's the Game Boy Modding by Greg Farrell at GameChanger_mods. It is a really good book. Probably not so much for maybe modding because it's a few years old and everything's on the internet. But as far as just being able to take your time
what? It's
and
actually
flick through.
So Greg is he keeps teasing that he's going to do a V2 book.
He is, yes.
Because so much has changed in the last year since that book came out. I would honestly say it's a good read for anybody. I wouldn't say it's like it's exclusive to Game Boy modders. I would say it's more of a textbook than anything. A lot of the information is definitely available on the internet, but I think to have it like right there, like it's nice to have, because I've learned a couple things in here that that weren't readily available on the internet, and I've learned that are in this book, that are also on the internet. So it's like I would rather have it in a book that I can just go grab and flip to whatever page and be able to just know that it's there, rather than like, okay, where is who posted that YouTube video from 2-3 years
which
ago,
Reddit thread was that again?
I don't have bookmark or saved.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's like I have that book. The book's it's $30, and it's got all of those all those tips and tricks and stuff. To do like all the basic stuff for the most part.
Don't get me wrong, I am not for 1 second discounting the value of the information in this book. When I got it, I was but being able to, like you said, staring at a screen and trawling through Reddit posts and watching YouTube and stuff, and it's also apparently you should sort of half know it all, but having a book to read it. And also I used to have an old Volkswagen over here. We called it a combi, the van. And there was a book which was very similar. And it was like, I learned how to pull my own engine out of that van. And I learned how to change the gearbox, the transaxle. And you would get the book, and it was like a workshop manual, but it was written much like Greg's used the same sort of font. And you would get the book, and it would say, you need a 9/17 or whatever. And you'd roll under the vehicle, and you'd say, and you read the book, you get your girlfriend or your mate to read it. It'd be like, okay, so you see where you're laying now, right above you is that huge nut. And you'd be like, yeah, that's not it. That's for something else. Look 2 inches to the left. That's the one you want. So this way of just presenting the information as if you're just sitting there with Greg, and he's like, this is how it's done. Just take your time. And, all the imagery is right there. So it's a good gift for anybody, even if they're a good modder or not. Maybe get them a copy of this, because it's really great to see stuff on paper that is about what we love, because it seems sparse.
Yeah, it's awesome. It gets super, like I was actually gifted mine
Beautiful.
from Greg. Shout out to Greg, Game Changer Mods. But nonetheless, like I read the whole thing through. And I think when I got my book, like I had been modding for almost a year already. So when I say like I didn't learn a whole lot from it, like there's some stuff that like nobody's doing anymore, like the Game Boy Color front light kits. Not a lot of people are doing those anymore since IPS started coming out. But there's still a lot of people that still do backlit vibrates. I'm actually doing 2 that I have to prep for the next couple of days. That's a very like nice way to keep that original aesthetic of a Game Boy. While adding a backlight to it.
Correct.
There's a few people that do them, and they do them exclusively. Greg is one of them. all of Greg's DMGs for the most are still backlit Vibert. He's only recently started doing the IPS stuff, and I applaud him for it. Like I would, I would prefer to do backlit Viberts, but the screens in like decent working condition are almost like impossible to find. So kudos to him because he
Mm,
finds them all. That's probably why
yeah,
no one else can find them. But
yeah, yeah.
this guy, he's really good. He's really good stuff.
Yeah, the biverter backlit DMG is a pretty rad looking thing because the one that I put in the the backlight was a kind of a greeny, so it has this almost like kind of 70s 80s kind of green CRT to it as well, so it just adds to the aesthetic. It's a
Mhm.
one of the black play it louds. Yeah, cool.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit more about you as a collector because I think it's quite apparent you do like to collect. And I've spoken to a few people about what really makes particular Game Boys stay in their collection. Because I mean, I've got probably around 20 now, and there's even some I'm like, I've got a Game Boy Color with an aioli, which is just a bit small to screen. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a beautiful thing. And I thought, oh, look, I'll sell it and I'll make some money so I can do like an OSD color instead. And I put it up
Mhm.
on Facebook Marketplace for like 2 days, and I pulled it off. And I was like, why was that? I just wasn't ready to get rid of it as much as I didn't even like it. So everybody has their little thing as to what makes a Game Boy stay in their possession. Can you sort of fill us in on what makes you collect and what makes you sell? Obviously, things that are junk or for someone you
On
sell,
like
but
what makes me sell stuff?
nothing.
Yeah, okay. So the first Game Boy that I like built and then ended up selling, I built I call them Snow White build, so just all white build. So I built a
Yeah,
Snow White DMG. Um, so it was actually the first thing I ever like modded. I reshelled it, and that's kind of how I got into modding in the first place. Was uh, I bought a couple DMGs, and then I've always been into just like I've always been into simple white tech, white laptops, white headphones,
yeah,
white phones, like the works. And I started, trying to find Game Boys, and I was like, I wonder if they sell Game Boy shells and if I could build a white Game Boy. And that's how it started for me. And then I stumbled onto retro modding. Um, and they've got their own custom white shells with, with no logos or anything like that on it. And
hmm
they've got, the clean white lenses. And it's like, yep, like that's what we're doing. So I reshelled that. Then I did a backlit Vivert on it. And then eventually I upgraded it to an IPS. And I wanted to do more. Like I just wanted to keep modding. So I ended up raffling it. And it ended up in Australia. Um, funny enough. Um, so I sold that. And then for the last, 6 months, I'm like, I need a Snow White DMG. Like I need one. And then I rebuilt it. So
yeah,
so this one's staying. This one's got Type C rechargeable battery and it's got a RIPS V3 IPS display in it. Um so that one's staying in the collection. So that was one build that like I built, I sold, and then regretted. Not reg I don't say I regretted selling it. It's just like it's a beautiful Game Boy.
yeah,
Um so I needed to have one. So I
yeah,
built another one.
yeah,
Um Everything else, I've got a few Game Boys that I won in raffles or I bought from friends, or won in giveaways. Like those are collection items. They are not going anywhere. So,
yeah.
um, one won a raffle from Kelly. So next up, please. It's one of the first marbled Game Boys that she ever did.
Oh,
It's
beautiful.
a marble Game Boy Pocket, but it's marbled on the inside of the shell.
Yeah,
So I won that. That's also back to Vibert. It's a Game Boy Pocket. Probably my favorite pocket, other than the Snow White Pocket that I just built a couple of days ago. So I'll be posting pictures of that in the next couple of days. So stay tuned.
gorgeous.
I a also won a Game Boy Advance SP. It's like Zelda themed, so it's like gold and yellow. It's got a rose-colored Game Boy Triforce veneer on it.
Hmm
I won that, and then I won a giveaway from Level Up Mods. That's a Yoshi themed DMG. Um, so that's not going anywhere. So those three builds for sure are staying in the collection. They're not going anywhere, probably ever. And then the the retro pixel Neptune DMG that I recently built in January. So Retrobotic sent a bunch of modders and people in the community uh, that marble shell they just came out with. So it's an injection molded shell that's got hints of blue, white, and black in it. Every
Yeah.
shell is of a kind, so it's super neat.
Yeah.
Um, so I built that, and then I ended up putting a white lens on it. It's got white buttons on it, white silicone, super clean. That's not going anywhere. And then um, and then I've got the James He Plays collection. So yeah, he did the Bayside, the Kapowski, and the Preppy. So the goal is to build all three, and then those are staying in the collection. So I think the difference between like me, like I don't really buy Game Boys just to like keep. Like I'm buying them to collect, and I generally don't just like I buy them and build them for me.
Yeah.
Um, so like I've got like I always keep a clean G that's just like an original, a gray brick. If I end up needing to mod one, because you know it's my last DMG, like I'll use the parts to build that. But then I've got a a dirty one, or I come up with the board and the screen just goes right back into the shell,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so that I've always got it. And then I've ended up collecting. I now have three Play It Louds um, that just keep popping up here randomly, and
Yeah.
every time they pop up, I'm like, will you take $100
Yeah.
complete in box? And there's yep. And I'm like, cool, I'll be there in an hour. And I just,
Holy moly. That's a
um,
good score.
so I've got, yeah, so I have one that's complete in box. The only thing I'm missing, I think, is the insert, like the Play It Loud actual like paper, I'm pretty sure. And then I've got another one that came with Tetris in the manuals. And then I have a green one that just came with the case, but I have three of the cases, which you can't just find anywhere.
Mm,
Um, but
mm,
they just like they keep popping up, and I'm like every time they pop up, I'm like, hey,
yeah.
you letting that go for any less than what you got it? Like
Yeah.
a clear plate loud complete in box DMG is like $300.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing you. The play it loud stuff is so cool. Like, I think
It's just different, you
it
know?
is the first DMG I got was the a black plate loud. It was given to me by my mother-in-law. My wife and her brother used it, and I was like, oh yeah. And I didn't really understand the difference between that and the original, beige brick. And then when I saw the plate loud, I was like, these are kind of cool. And then I picked up like a clear one, and now I got a green one and a red one. And this is that whole like, the McDonald's colors are that color for a reason. They make you hungry and all that sort of stuff. And again, going back to the whole aesthetics and the science behind marketing, and I look at the colors of the Play It Louds. I'm like, they had some inside information, like how the stuff would look in your hand to give you a feeling more than I just have a thing. I'm really, really looking for a good quality, a good clean. The blue one, it seems to be pretty elusive in my part of the world anyway. It's gorgeous.
I haven't seen too many of them. I mean, I have
No,
two clear ones, and like those are very far in between. I think like I know a couple people who have them,
yeah,
but like, I have two, and like that's wild
yeah,
to me. And they both popped up within a couple months of each other.
right.
And then I've got a green.
Yeah, I've got a clear one myself. I think just looking at sort of the market over here in Australia, the clear one is probably what I would say to be the most common play it loud that people are selling. And they're always with a, Super Mario 2 or a Tetris. And it was obviously and they're kind of people that you sort of think, I don't think this person was ever really a gamer. She might be a sort of 26, 27-year-old that's kind of got a kid, and she's like, I'm just getting rid of a whole bunch of stuff. And they bought it on a trip to Hong Kong, and it's just sort of sat around, that sort of thing. So we're fortunate there's a lot of clears over here. Maybe that's what happened. Yeah. It's hard to get rid of them, isn't it?
Yeah,
Even
maybe.
when you kind of don't want to,
Yeah, I mean, like
or you don't want
I
them.
don't generally like buy them. Yeah, like I don't buy them to collect them, right? Like I mean, I think the Play It Louds and the stuff that is uncommon, like I'll pick that up for cheap if it is. Um,
Mm,
but I think like I've started to kind of try to collab and work with like Game Boy shell artists.
yep.
So I just
Yep.
finished up a giveaway with Game Boy Engineer for that Gengar Game Boy Color shell.
Oh man, I
Um,
love that.
so we're talking about Actually, I mean, I've got it here. Hold on, I'll show you. But I mean,
That's
the people
fine.
listening,
Yeah.
would have seen. Actually, no, I can't. It's all
Yeah.
wrapped up. I can't even show you. But
That's fine.
it's a outlined Game Boy Color with Vanguard on it. So, he does vinyl and does these really like exclusive Game Boy shells.
Mm,
So we teamed up to do a giveaway, and it's an amazing shell. It's absolutely
mm,
gorgeous.
mm.
So we did that, and then the Game Boy .7777.
Yep.
She does like splatter shells. She does like galaxy shells.
Mm,
Um, so I had reached out to her a couple of months ago, and I was like, hey, like, like, are you looking to sell shells ever? Like, is this a thing
yeah.
we can talk about? Because like they're gorgeous, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
she's in Germany, and I was like, if I've got to buy a whole build to make this happen, like I'll buy a whole build. But if you're
Yep.
just willing to sell shells or send
Yep.
shells out this way, I would love some.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know what, your birthday's coming up, I'll do it as a gift.
Oh, what a
Um,
lady.
and so I got three. I got a Galaxy Pocket, which is unreal. I'll show you. People on the gram have seen them, but um, so I got three. I got a DMG, which is done with the Pegcity8bit colors.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
So we're calling this the Peg City Splatter Boy is what it'll be called. I got this one, which is she called it Red Velvet, so it's got like a gradient on it.
Yeah. So it fades.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it fades from like a raspberry color
yeah. Yeah.
to like
So
more like a
opaque.
deep red,
Yeah.
and then this Galaxy
Oh,
Pocket Shell.
wowzers. Look at that. I love the pocket. The pocket is it seems to also, and let's not tell anybody, but it seems to be kind of caught in the middle where it's like the DMGs have gone bonkers and then the GBA is really popular and the pockets just sort of floating in the middle there. And I still see a lot of the sort of silver pockets that are still going pretty cheap. I saw a guy the other day on Instagram has got I'm not sure, he's using maybe like some etching and some painting and a few different processes, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Mandalorian show that Disney's had on.
Yeah,
The
you're talking about Joseph Tompkins. Yeah, he's doing
the
the
best
best
guy.
car shows. Yeah,
Oh my lord, dude! I've
yeah,
messaged him, and I'm going to keep messaging him and just going. I'll pay the extra 40. Like I have here, I 3D printed this and I filled it with some LED flashing, so it's around about the same weight as Beskar. This piece of Beskar. Well, you can't see it's all washing out and shit. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But I would love a pocket. That Beskar pocket shell. So if that dude's listening, buddy, just
Cool.
shut up,
And I mean, it's
shut
about
up
the
and take
same
my money.
size too, right?
Yeah, yeah, roughly.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's doing really cool stuff with the etching, and he's
Mm.
doing that. And like I think that we're in this like really like neat space where in the last like year or 6 months or so people are starting to put art on Game Boys, right? And I
Mm.
think there's a lot of artists that don't necessarily build Game Boys or want to build Game Boys or mod consoles or anything like that.
Mm.
But they do have a love for retro gaming, and it's like, how do I dabble in this space, and work with these people without having to do any of this stuff myself, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So, to be an artist, you can now take your artwork, design artwork specifically for Game Boy shells,
mm,
and then you can collab with these modders. Like, if there's a lot of people who have built up like legitimate partnerships with you know with um with Game Boy modders and artists, and there's like a whole collab thing going.
yeah,
um and I like, it's a really like interesting space to play in. Like,
yeah.
you're
It
an
is.
artist,
It is.
but at the same time, it's like you're like you're designing more than just an art piece. Like, it's a collector's item. I guess art is the same thing, but I don't know.
Mm,
It's a super cool space to play in.
yeah,
Juliana does, she builds Game Boys as well,
yeah,
and also does these shows. So does Joseph.
yeah,
Um, they're both doing like really unique stuff. Kelly's an artist, as is James. He plays. They're
yeah,
both artists. They're both graphic designers, the two of them, and they both
yeah,
design
yeah,
Game Boy shell artwork as well. Kelsey from Yesterday's Tech is
Yeah.
also an artist and has started doing Game Boy shells recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you
It
know,
it it takes me back to
yeah.
sort of, in the 70s, and there was like all that big scene of like all the big vans, the big Bedford vans that, with kind of like the A-Team van, let's say, and they would have like, kind of like a Conan the Barbarian mural with the, the cat by his side and the moon in the background. And it was just this thing in the 70s, and Harley Davidsons with fuel tanks that were just, it was like a skull demon warrior thing and all sorts of stuff. And I would
Yeah, it's all airbrushed and everything.
yeah, that's right. And I would suggest that a lot of those, a lot of that art was done by people that doesn't give a rat's ass about the van or the motorcycle. But they were just artists, and they were like, here's another place for me to express myself. And I love it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I wonder if it's not too controversial, you might kind of comment on the I think it was Trey had someone had a something caught up in customs in Canada, a shell.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about it.
Like that
I
concerns
don't
me.
want to like.
This is the conversation I had. The conversation was, so you're telling me I can't get a pair of Nike and put them in a box and send them to you as a gift? Like, where's the line drawn? Like, I just feel really bad for the
So I
dude.
think what happens is so when you mod a Game Boy and I think like when you send it and you put all your customs information, like if you say that it's a Game Boy, right? Only Nintendo's Game Boys. So
Mm,
like who are you? I think is kind of where that gray space kind of. But
right.
there's people who are selling hundreds, hundreds if not thousands of Game Boys and shipping them all over the
Oh,
world, right? So
absolutely,
as
absolutely.
far as like it being like a customs issue, um, I can't speak to the fact like I've shipped Game Boys to the States, to Australia, to the UK, and had no issues personally.
Mm,
Um, I think it's that specific customs office
right.
that's had some issues.
Okay.
And it's just like they've locked down, and I think like Nintendo might be looking to like renew those IPs and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's our worst nightmare, isn't
So
it?
yeah, I mean it's like it's a little bit of a personal thing. So like I won't get like like I won't get too much into it, but it's more like we're technically reselling, like unlicensed Game Boys,
Mm,
kind of.
mm,
Um, but
yeah.
really, like the only part of it that's still Nintendo is generally the backboard or the PCB, and
Yeah, that's
everything
right.
else is aftermarket.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I
You
don't know,
know,
asking you to go too much. I just wondered if you'd had any of that sort of stuff, and it
no, I
just
hadn't
worries
read
me.
into it any of it myself, and I think the like when you mentioned the Nike thing, right? And you put them in a new box and you ship them, like you're not saying that you're Nike, nor are any of us saying that we're Nintendo, nor are we affiliated with
Yeah,
Nintendo,
yeah,
nor am I
yeah.
selling you, like I'm not selling you a brand new, complete in box with all like I'm not selling you a brand new Game Boy. It is a refurbished Game Boy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it is like it's also brand new, right? So um I don't know what happened in terms of what like how that got
Mm,
seized.
mm,
Um I mean, it's shitty. Like I know
yeah,
he ended up losing some money on that.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I don't want to throw anybody in it. I guess it was just the thought occurred to me on the end of these people that are putting so much work and so much effort into it, into these beautiful shells, and I'm sure he feels the same. He's like, I just made a beautiful thing, and I just was giving it to someone, so to speak. And so, yeah,
mhm.
we won't loiter on that thought, but yeah, it makes me sad that the world gets like that we can't just share kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I think it was just like wrong place, wrong time, right? Because
Mm.
it, I mean, had that gotten like had anyone else been working that day, right? Like would it have made it through customs?
Yeah,
Probably.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. It's like,
Yeah, it is.
had it been someone else,
Mm,
would have just been like, okay, it's fine, and just
mm,
scanned the box and moved it on.
mm, mm. All right. We're getting to the point where I like to give everybody an opportunity to kind of plug a few names, a few places, a few companies, a few products, whatever it is that you think deserves a little highlighting. There can be people that are at the top of the cream of the crop, or they can be people that you think are up and coming, or they can just be your best mate that's got you through the last 18 months of weird nonsense, and you just want to give them a big fat hug, through this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned quite a few names throughout the last hour and a bit here, but I mean, I'll highlight a few. There's honestly, like, from the bottom of my heart, like, I appreciate every single follower that I've got.
Mm,
Um, you guys are all amazing, and it's been an absolute ride the last year and a bit. Um, there is like legitimately there's too many people
yeah, I can
to
appreciate that.
list them.
Yeah.
So if I don't say your name, like, don't think I'm I don't love you. I love every
Yeah.
one of you.
I'm sorry. I do put
So
people
right
on I
right
do
off the
put people on
top,
the spot a bit here, don't I? I should
a
rephrase that.
little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
I
it's
guess
okay. I mean, right off the top, the the people that for sure come to mind are it's my little Game Boy gang. So Jamesy plays yesterday's tech, and next up, please. I guess it's the four of them, but they've been awesome. We've really become friends and like real like tight homies over the last year. And I think the fun thing about like our relationship is that we're all in different time zones, but we've
mm,
managed to
mm,
like have a cohesive conversation amongst the 4 or 5 of us.
yeah,
Um, Sam and Kelsey are in Australia, so there's like a whole 14-16 hour delay between them and me. Kelly's only 1 hour ahead, but then Adam, James he plays is 6 hours ahead in the UK. So he's 6 hours ahead. So when I'm waking up in the morning, it's lunchtime for Adam,
yeah,
but then Sam and Kelsey are going to sleep, and it's like
yeah,
me and Kelly are getting up for the day. So it's very weird that we're able to keep like a legitimate relationship going, and
yeah,
it's been super neat. So
yeah.
definitely shout out to them.
Mm. And look, sorry to
Shout out to
interrupt,
Retro Gaming Dad.
but I think that's
Yeah, no, go ahead.
that's part of what I would like to highlight the most with this whole podcast is to sort of the community can feel big and it can feel like it's in small groups, but there's so much in common. And, it becomes apparent to me every time I get this opportunity to sit down with someone like yourself and everybody who's been brave enough to step up and just meet you. And I'm an introvert by nature, and a lot of my hobbies are about just doing it with myself. And I'll kind of draw a person into my hobby, and I'll participate with that person purely under my own control, my own level of exposure.
Yeah.
But the last 12 months has definitely, for all of us, has given me this kind of appetite to just meet people again. Like we did 4 weeks in California, and I met 20 people that were just so amazing. I'll never get to meet them again, and it's really unfortunate. But I'm just trying to highlight with this podcast. People are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, because this community is really rad, and it's really nice just to get to meet someone, and you might learn a thing or two. So yeah, and look, regarding the names, I
Yeah.
guess sometimes it's just about putting the shout out, and then someone might listen to this for the first time. They might go, "What's this crap?" And then they kind of like, "Oh, that's okay." And then these people that are working real hard to spread the positive vibes, they're getting their reward, and it just rolls on from there. So yeah, I didn't want to interrupt,
100%.
but
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify
No,
that.
it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, no, I definitely shout out to Jordan, Retro Gaming Dad. He did the maiden voyage, and he was the first one on here. And I think
Patient zero.
shortly after that, yeah, I think shortly after that podcast, like that episode aired, he was like, "Hey, like I think this is something you might be down for. Like you should reach out to Scott and see what's up." And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm down for a podcast. Like
Yeah.
why not? Let's chat. I'm always down to chat retro gaming, so let's definitely do it." So shout out to Jordan. Me and Jordan talk every day, if not every other day. He's been a long time supporter of mine, and definitely someone I consider a friend. So shout out to him. We're both dads, so we can relate on the parent front as well. So we'll shoot shit about parents and just like the struggles of not being able to game or being able to
Yeah,
monitor a
yeah,
parent and
yeah,
working full
yeah.
time and all that
The
stuff.
the
So
blessings.
it's nice to like relate to someone on more yeah, it's nice to relate with someone on like multiple levels and not,
Yeah,
oh yeah, like we have video games comments. Yeah, we're also new dads and we both have toddlers, and then
yeah,
we're both Game Boy modders, so like almost every avenue is very, very similar. So like it's nice that way. Um, who else I got? Natalie the Nerd,
Yep.
who was on episode 3, is very actually new to the gaming community or to the retro gaming and modding community. I mentioned that in her episode. I can't remember, but she is fairly new. I'd say she's probably been around for about 6 months, give or take. Um, but she's no stranger to anybody. She's
No,
popping up all over the place.
just being in the background
And
boiling away.
she's doing absolutely unreal stuff. I mean, these LED PCB boards for the Game Boy Color that she's putting out
Yeah.
are they're a game changer. Real
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
straight up. They make the whole process so simple, like
Yep.
so simple. You solder the current LED and you hit 2 solder points, bang bang.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
not putting an IPS in there, like that's it, you're done. You turn that bad boy on and boom, you got LEDs in your hands.
Yeah.
If if you're putting an IPS, the process from there is realistically it's the same. Nothing
Yeah.
else changes from there. But
It's one of those mods, isn't it?
she really is just trying to make she really is just trying to make the like and I mean, putting LEDs in a Game Boy isn't difficult. It's just like it's very time consuming, right? So she's
Mm,
trying to take all of like the labor intensity out of these mods and
yeah.
make them more user friendly. Like two
Yeah.
solder points is very easy. Um, I mean, when you get a RIPS kit, it doesn't come with a speaker on it, right? It's the exact same thing. You
Yeah.
2 solder points for the speaker, boom, boom. It's very, very easy. People could do it, and I think that that's kind of what she is trying to bring to the community, try to make these mods accessible and
Yep.
as easy as possible. So
Yeah.
shout out to her. Shout out to Marky Pie. Mark is an interesting um, kind of member of the community because he doesn't mod Game Boys, but
Mm,
he's very in the retro gaming space.
yep.
Mark does a lot of stuff with Game Boy or with Game Heroes and Raspberry Pis and
Yep.
he does these little VMU handhelds and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
So
love that
um,
stuff.
he,
The little VMUs you can actually
yeah,
like
he's
legit
definitely
play on, like that stuff just blows me. I think you had
yeah.
like
So
Ghosts
I
and
mean,
Goblins or something on one. I was like, dude, that is just insane.
yeah, no, and I mean like he's using like he's building Game Boy Zeros is what they're called, right? Because it runs on a Raspberry Pi Zero. So
Yeah, yeah,
um like he's very influential in this space. Like he's always shouting out, the up and comers and people that have been around for a while and they're just doing dope shit. And Mark is not about the numbers at all.
yeah,
Um, he's very, very humble. He's trying to um balance the work with the community side of things. And I think that's like maybe the struggle for, as you get bigger, you get more DMs, you get more attention and trying to separate like how do
mm,
you streamline like having legitimate relationships with people on Instagram
yeah,
and outside of Instagram
yeah,
while still maintaining that like business side of it. Um,
yeah,
and I think he does a really good job. But he's so busy, you throw him a DM and like he might not get back to you for a couple of days or a week. And it's not because he doesn't want to or that he's ignoring you. It's that like your message ended up getting buried in
yeah, yeah,
and all the other messages. But Mark's been awesome. I've had the opportunity to keep with him offline and off the gram over the last couple of months and he's amazing. He's
yeah,
super awesome. He's taught me a
yeah.
lot. He continues to teach me a lot.
And
He's
it's
someone to
people.
look up to and
It's people like him that people like Nat will look up to. And as much as
yeah.
someone might be very quick to dismiss someone who isn't, purely within the Game Boy cult, and you go, yeah, but everything that's happening within a Game Boy has got something to do with a technology unrelated to, like at one point, that we're using the BlackBerry screens. It's got nothing to do with a Game Boy. So
Mhm.
if we didn't have someone who was curious and capable to take a screen from a totally different tech and jam it in a Game Boy, and then inspire someone like Nat the Nerd to create these easy install button lighting kits, like you've got to give the credit 2 to 3 layers back. And I'm picking up the people like Marky Pie are. They're that level of inspiration, not directly linked, but paramount to the hobby becoming a bigger and bigger beast and creating the extra aesthetics for things like with Nat.
Definitely, definitely. J-Boy Mods is another one, as well as Game Changer Mods. So both of them um, are two people that I've been following probably right from the beginning. Um, both people that I look up to, both in just like the quality of their builds, the number of builds they put up, and how it really is a business for them. Um, you know, Jay does a lot of stuff with he started getting into like rechargeable battery mods and magnetic battery mods and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So he's always looking for like the next thing to like push the brink.
Yeah.
It's like what's next, right? Like rechargeable mods is cool, but like what about a magnetic cable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like next level.
Yeah.
So he's doing some really cool stuff with that, and um, he does like tinted shells and he does a lot of like custom lenses and stuff. So a lot of his stuff is like it's 100% one of a kind, and like you can only get it from him. He has custom labels and everything's got his J-Boy Mods label on the back. So like shout outs to him because like all his stuff is 100%. Shout out to him. And then Greg just like pumps out so many Game Boys. It's absolutely crazy, but they're all like they're all unique, they're all
Yeah.
gorgeous, and like
Yeah.
he's got his own like line of UV printed shells, that you can only get from him. So like yeah, there's
Yeah.
the stuff you can get from like retro modding and Player Wave and
Yeah.
places like that. But then like there's shells you can only get if you buy them from Greg.
Yeah. This is Game Changer Mods, the book we were ranting on about before.
A game changer mods. Yeah, so it's like I really applaud him, and I mean Game Changer Mod, actually him and his brother Ben. Um, but like those guys I've always kind of just like looked up to the account, and when I got into Game Boy modding, Greg's account was one of the Greg and Ben they were one of the first guys that I followed to kind of see like what we could do, what you could do with Game Boys, and just evolved. And like there's so many modders that have come up in the last year. So there's definitely too many to mention all of them. But I will say, shout out to everyone who hit the shoot like Peg City tag. I cannot thank you guys enough for taking your own stab at that.
Yeah.
I think there was about 30 people who tagged me and tagged the hashtag in a matter of a couple of days.
Yeah.
So shout out to each and every one of you.
Yeah.
That was super cool to see. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that type of response from it. I was expecting maybe a couple people, would take a shot at it and that'd
Yeah.
be it. But like
No, I think it's
30
great.
plus posts and
Yeah.
they're still coming in. It is crazy.
Don't stop it. Don't stop it. Keep it going. Craig and I from Retro Game Store Comedy, we were talking about maybe episode 10, because I feel we're going to get there. I've got people kind of like in the wings. Might be something where we might have a little bit of a celebration. And we discussed how to best decide on who would benefit the most from the celebration. And we discussed a Game Boy photography competition. And then it was literally like about 24 hours later, it was hashtag shoot like Peg City. And I was like, we discussed the concept, but by the next day I was convinced there's no way I want to be part of judging one photo of just the amount of just skills that are out there from every second chump like myself. I can go through.
Like, how do you judge that?
No, you don't. So we'll probably come up with some sort of other,
I think like you'd have to put that to like a community vote, like an
agreed.
anonymous community
Yeah.
vote, and let the community decide. I think as soon as you take the community out of it,
yeah, we talked about maybe like
then it's like
deciding on a top 20 and then kind of letting that sort of filter through. But even then, it's like, I'm going to have to pick 20 photos from, I don't know, might get 80, 90 photos. And I just love everyone. I don't want to do that. So I'd rather just be potluck, and if you're there, you're there. That's as simple as that. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like if you've got maybe a couple more, I've kept you. It's like we kicked this off at 8 o'clock at your time, so it's now
It's
9:30.
almost 10.
Yeah. I'm a bit of an old dude. I'd be like nearly falling asleep in my chair. Fortunately, it's only about quarter to 2 in the afternoon here on a Saturday, so I could do this for an hour and a half. But if you've got one or two more, but otherwise we might wrap it up.
Yeah, like I said, there's too many.
Yep.
there's too many to shout out. You know,
And-
no hard feelings to anyone. It's
yeah,
not that
yeah.
I don't want to. Um, like I literally cannot just sit here. I could sit here and ramble names off all
Another
day.
episode.
Um, yeah, and I'll just come
Yeah,
on and I'll just pop, 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 and I'll just spit
yeah.
off every name.
I need to
I
rethink how I
mean, if you guys
present
want
that
a
to the
list of the
guests,
people,
just to kind of like give them a bit more
yeah,
preparation,
maybe that's the
bit
only
more of a
thing that you
brief.
that people prep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think like honestly, like I follow just under 700 people. Like if you want some people that are amazing, go scroll through the 700 people I follow. They're all amazing.
yeah,
And then go scroll through the 3,300 people that follow me,
yeah,
and they're all amazing
yeah.
as
And then
well.
the 400
It
people that
really
follow
is
each of
hard to
those
like narrow
people,
it
and
down.
yeah,
Exactly. Everyone's amazing.
yeah,
There's like it's really hard to just like lock it down into like, yeah, like these people are, the people that are amazing. I think the people that I mentioned are people that I genuinely look up to, that have become friends in the community. And anyone listening, I'm not saying that you're not my friend. If we talk on a daily basis, like we're definitely,
yeah,
um, not just Instagram pals, but uh, I'm always open to chat. My DMs are always open. If you ever thought about reaching out and you're just like, oh, I don't want to bother him. Reach out. I'm always down to have a conversation.
yeah,
I think that's kind of how all of the relationships I've built are just like, hey, like, notice you're, Canadian. You want to be friends? Like, I'm
yeah,
Canadian too,
yeah, yeah.
and
It,
um,
and that's all it takes
it's
to
kind of how it
to
started.
to make a friend.
100%.
I've got a visitor this afternoon. This is someone off Instagram through the Game Boy, and I was like blah blah blah, and then I kind of worked out, hey, you're in Australia, and then blah blah blah, and then I'm like, hey, you're in Queensland, which is my state, or province, whatever you want to call it, and then blah blah. This dude is like half a kilometer from my house. And I'm like,
Oh, he's down the
boom,
street.
you don't down the street. You got to come around this afternoon. We'll have some beers. We'll play some retro gaming, and we'll just talk Game Boys. Because they're like, you're another human that loves Game Boys, possibly more than me. And I just need you in. I need you in my space, mate. I really do.
100%.
I'm really, really looking forward
Yeah.
to catching up with him. So, all right. Well, I think we're going to kick this into touch. I really appreciate you. You've got a young fella there, so you to get him down. I appreciate you taking your time out. 8 p.m. on a Friday night. It's really great to hear from you because it just helps us all to put a voice and a bit more sort of personality to what we see in our feeds. And I encourage everybody to go and check out your Insta. If there's, as usual, at the bottom of every kind of show notes and with the Instagram post that I put up, there's always links to the guests, and there's always links to the people that we're highlighting at this particular situation and any other pertinent information. I will say that I'm not sure if there's any other way, bar on Apple, iTunes, or whatever they call it now, to give a review, but it does help. And the point of the review is purely just to, I personally listen to about 7 hours of podcasts a day at my work, and I'm kind of running out of stuff to listen to. And if I look up Game Boy retro gaming, I'm sort of getting the same 20 to 25. So if you put this out there and you give it a review, there's someone out there that wants something to listen to and just goes, are you serious? There's a podcast about Game Boys and retro gaming, but, tightly close with Game Boys. You're going to make someone's day. And, they might be that next Peg City. They might be that next, amazing artist. So that's what we're doing. We're just cultivating the community. So, yeah,
Sure.
leave a review best way you can. Mate, really fantastic to talk to you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And we'll be in touch. I think at the end of the day, we're all just going to come back around. And if I ever make it to Winnipeg, I'm definitely coming, and we'll pull those consoles out and have a look at what you got there. That's fantastic. But that might be a few years.
Sounds good.
You know how it is.
For sure.
All right, bud. All right. Good on you. We'll be in touch. Thank you, mate.
You too. No worries. Take care.